In this video, we're talking about triangle midsegment theorem, which says that the midsegment is a line that connects the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. The midsegment is parallel to the third side and half the length. So what that means is that B and D are both midpoints of this triangle, which are typically represented with tick marks to show that the two sides on either side of the midpoint are congruent. So for example, AB is congruent to BC, and CD is congruent to DE. Notice that I didn't use the same tick marks because I don't know if the two sides of the triangle themselves are congruent. I don't know if AC is congruent to CE, but I do know that B and D are midpoints, making this line the midsegment. So when you are doing problems, the key thing to be on the lookout for is, are there midpoints? Because if there are, there's a midsegment if a line connects the two. Our formula, however, while this one is good, where it says that the midsegment is half the side length, I prefer that we say 2 times the midsegment is equal to the side length. So I don't have to worry about fractions. So if you want to use this formula, I would highly suggest you do. Let's do an example. So here, I notice I have tick marks here and here, which tells me that this point right here is a midpoint. I notice I have tick marks here and here, which tells me this point is a midpoint. So I know that X is equal to a midsegment. So if I'm using my formula, 2 parentheses midsegment, and I put it in parentheses in case there's anything I need to distribute later or whatever, equals the side length. Okay? So my midsegment is 2 times X, which is equal to my side length of 10. So then I do algebra, I divide by 2 on both sides, and I get X is equal to 5. And that's my midsegment. In this problem, we're trying to find EG, and we know that EG is equal to X plus 26. Well, to find EG, I'm going to have to solve for X first. So, again, I see tick marks, which tells me D and C are midpoints, which means that 17 plus X equals the midsegment. And so I can use my formula. 2 times the midsegment equals the side length. So we have 2, and this is again why we use the parentheses, because I have all of this as the midsegment. So I'm going to distribute is equal to X plus 26. When I do this, I get 34 plus 2X is equal to X plus 26. I subtract 34 from both sides and get 2X is equal to X minus 8. I subtract X, and I get X is equal to negative 8. Since X equals negative 8, we're going to go into EG and replace X so that this now reads negative 8 plus 26, and we get that EG equals 18. And that's it for today. In the notes, we have a couple more examples on the next page. So for these, we're just going to do the setup because we can do the algebra later. So the first thing we have to figure out, if you notice, there are different kinds of problems here. So first we have to figure out, okay, is this a mid-segment or is this proportionality theorem? And so the way to figure out mid-segment is, did they give me interior pieces? So we see we have an interior number and not stuff on the edges. Or did they give me the tick marks and do I have midpoints? Well, in this case, they gave me both. So I can see I have tick marks, which tells me that L and K are midpoints. So I can use 2 times the mid-segment equals the side length. We know that the mid-segment is equal to 10 because it's the line. It's equal to KL, which is the line segment that connects the 2 midpoints. So we end up with 2 times 10 is equal to PR, which we said is X. So we can say that 20 is equal to PR. And that's it. Okay? For the bottom 2, though, notice that the numbers are on the outside. I do have parallel lines, which is great, but the numbers are on the outside, which tells me that I'm going to use triangle proportionality theorem. So I can say that 4 goes with 5x minus 4 and their fraction, and my other 4 goes with 3x plus 2. So when I set up my fractions, I have 4 over 5x minus 4, left over right, and then I have 4 over 3x plus 2. When I cross multiply that, I get 4 parentheses 3x plus 2 is equal to 4 parentheses 5x minus 4. And at this point, you could insolve this or do it by hand. You end up with 12x plus 8 because I have to distribute is equal to 20x minus 16. I subtract 12x from both sides. I add 16 to both sides. When I do that, I end up with 8x on one side, and I end up with 24 on the other. I divide both sides by 8, and x equals 3. Okay? At the bottom here, we once again see that we have proportionality because things are on the outside. So 3 goes with 27. 6 goes with x. So when I set this up, I have 3 over 27, which can reduce to 1 over 9. And that is equal to 6 over x. I cross multiply, and I get x is equal to 6 times 9, 1 times x. So I get x is equal to 54. And that's it. That's all we're doing today.